Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming yet another legend of the Comedy Store. One that most of you probably are not going to hear of, but it's okay, you're going to be hearing him on here. His name is Lue Deck. He was a comedian and a doorman at the Comedy Store in the 70s. And I think a little bit of the 80s as well. And I'm having him on the show today to talk about his experiences there, you know, his relationship with Mitzi Shore and other comedians, get into the strike and just things that happened during that period. And you all know that I'm obsessed with the Comedy Store. You know, I love having people on from there and talking about, you know, all the crazy shit that happened. And I'm so lucky that I get to talk to people from there, the classic years of the Comedy Store. It's not like it is today. Also, I'd like to say rest in peace, Kirk Douglas, great movie legend we lost yesterday. It's so sad that we lost him, but he lived to 103. That's a full-fledged life right there. That's more than most people get. So yeah, here is my interview with Lue Deck.
Red Shoes Incorporated. I'm sorry all our operators are busy right now, but if you'll hold for just, for God's sake, pick up the phone. Who's that? Can I help you?
Hey Lou, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty crazy actually. I was Tuesday night on Sunset Boulevard in LA at the Comedy Store for 4 hours in the wind, and I picked up a little nose cold, so I apologize for sounding a little hoarse.
Oh, it's a recurring theme on this show. Everyone was sick last month that I interviewed, so don't worry. Don't feel bad.
That's okay. I was going to say I'm reporting from Hunan province in China, but I didn't want to start a panic.
Oh, that's great. Hey, this is such a great honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
Oh, my pleasure. First off, if you're talking stand-up, I'm listening. And always glad to help in that. To be truthful with you, I dragged my butt out of law. I quit law school to be a stand-up comic in 1974.
Wow.
45 years later, my mother's still pissed off. But it has been my life. It's giving me everything I've ever wanted. I'm in LA now, and I got to say, what if I can do something for stand-up after it all, as much as it's done for me, then I'm in. So I appreciate what you do.
Oh, thank you so much. But going back...
What do you want to do today?
Well, going back in time before the Comedy Store, I mean, did you gravitate toward comedy early on in your childhood at least?
In those days, there was no live performance. I was born in Texas. My dad took a job with the Air Force that took us, and I grew up in Georgia till I was 20. And so I remember nothing of live performance. What I remember is a couple of comedy albums, and mostly 50s and 60s TV comedy.
Right.
Right? I didn't believe there was anyone in the world that could stand up and make a living telling jokes until I started watching Johnny Carson.
Whose albums did you listen to?
Well, ironically, my dad was a big fan of Shelley Berman.
Oh, yeah.
An old Borscht Belt type of guy. I mean, you know, when he was in his prime, he was a good-looking young man. But you might know him. He got to play a judge on Boston Legal.
Yes.
A couple of episodes. And he was famous for one routine to where he was stuck on a plane next to a 7-year-old, and it was the beginning of the one-sided conversation.
And he was also known for Bob Newhart stealing one of his best routines.
Absolutely, the one-sided conversation. Bob Newhart made it on the phone call.
Yeah, the phone call. Yeah.
Right, and that was Shelley's showcase bit. Now, he did a whole lot of other things, now that we look back and see, gosh, those guys that were born in the 30s and 40s and came up on the East Coast, there was a whole horde of places to go develop being a stand-up called the Catskills.
Mm-hmm.
And even so much that they had a tour set up called the Borscht Belt.
Mm-hmm.
And that in those days, they just needed a fast talker that everybody liked. You could walk on it at the resort in the Catskills and bring on the band or the girl singer or whatever. And they noticed the guys that did the best at handling emceeing the show also told a few jokes. And inevitably, one performer will not be there at showtime, so the comic has to do longer time. So the MC has to hold, because of some circumstance, he has to hold the crowd for 30 minutes, and it turns out he makes them laugh real hard, and then now he transits from an MC to a comic.
Mm-hmm.
And Shelley Berman was one of those. Now, Bob Newhart, a whole generation later.
Yeah.
Same kind of style, but we're talking 25 years later. So I would see Milton Berle, Shelley Berman, Red Skelton. Of course, in the movies, you would see the Three Stooges and...
Marx Brothers, Laurel and Hardy.
Oh, that's it, Laurel and Hardy, Bud and Abbott.
Yeah, Abbott and Costello.
Right, so they came right out of that system. Now, some of them go even further back. Bob Hope was a dancer in vaudeville. Eventually, as a dancer, he's standing there, and the comic doesn't show, so they push him out, and he holds the time. Suddenly, he changes from dancing to telling jokes. But that's in the 30s and the 40s, right?
Yeah, when everyone was doing it all.
I'm seeing guys on TV that are the reflection of the Jewish wave from the Borscht Belt.
Right.
Jan Murray, Corbett Monica, names no one would know now. But
George Gobel.
Little stand-ups.
Yeah.
And then once you get a crowd, odd ones pop out. And toward the end of that crowd, Lenny Bruce popped out.
Right.
And he was just a wise-ass Jewish comic doing pretty much inside New York stuff. And then he got in trouble for saying the F word, and everybody had heard of him, so suddenly he's a draw at the door.
Yeah. One of the
right? So he's one of the more famous guys from that generation because he got all the press. They were trying to stop him from cursing on stage. So he has a 10-year run during all of that, and in the end was literally walking up and down the stand-up stage with the transcript of the trial where he was convicted, and he was doing bitter satire on personal moments.
Yeah. And
the crowd started fading.
Yeah, one of the
behind his happy-go-lucky schmuck type of attitude, and then after be nice to the people on the way up in show business, because on the way down you won't have time.
Yeah, that's so true.
When he hit bottom, nobody was around him. He'd been bitter at everybody for a while, and he ended up dying on the toilet from opiates.
Yeah.
Right. So. Right. Now move forward a generation. There's Cheech and Chong and Robert Klein and Dave Steinberg.
Richard Pryor and Carlin.
Well, Pryor was a little late to that wave, but what I'm pointing out is, again, they all flocked to New York because that's the end of the Borscht Belt, Catskill Mountain training ground.
Mm-hmm.
And in those days you had Ed Sullivan, and there's several New York shows the rest of the country might not know about, but they had talent shows. And this is where the acts that actually had been on stage a couple of hundred times look best because they're competing against Cub Scouts on their third try.
Mm-hmm.
And then now out of that generation comes the 60s where you know you can be bitter.
Yeah.
And that there was a lot of mostly, again, New York acts. Well, toward the 70s, all of the 50s comics that I have mentioned before,
mm-hmm.
From the Borscht Belt and stuff, they had bred a generation of comics like that, who flowed west, but we don't know who their names are. They will end up being Rip Taylor, who died recently, but a guy that stood on stage and used a modern-day Carrot Top, but flaming.
Yeah.
And a guy named Sammy Shore.
Yep.
Sammy Shore was just another Boy Scout comic and toured and making decent money. And then after 5 or 10 years, he got a job from the Colonel. The Colonel being the manager of Elvis, and he was Elvis's opening act for 10 years. And Elvis was popular, so he worked a lot. He made a lot of money. When that ended and Elvis came off tour, Sammy moved to Los Angeles with his wife and the kids, and they wanted a place to work out, so he grabbed a room and brought the wife down to help him run it, and that became the Comedy Store.
Yep.
And it's in a famous building on Sunset Boulevard. It was Ciro's, C-I-R-O.
Ciro's, yeah.
Possessive and an S. So it's Bob Ciro. No, his name's not Bob, but it's the guy. Ciro's owns it. Ciro's.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, this was the place that Lana Turner went to go meet Frank Sinatra and Errol Flynn. And, you know, they had a floor show. It was like the Copacabana that Ricky supposedly played in Lucille Ball. I Love Lucy. It's a showroom. Very famous place. Way at the front of the building, Sammy and Mitzi got a place to do 50 seats and do stand-up. Well, 3 years into it, just less than 3 years, Elvis decided to go back on tour. He got his manager, the Colonel, to call Sammy, and Sammy said, I'm going back on tour. And the family had lived that life. So Mitzi, his wife, said, no, we're staying here. If you go, I'm going to divorce you. She took the house in the Hollywood Hills. She took the kids and the little tiny nightclub. She named it the Comedy Store because at the time there was a after-hours bar in Beverly Hills where all the celebrities went after the bars closed, called the Candy Store.
Mm-hmm.
So she thought Comedy Store would be appropriate in 1972. At any rate, he left. She divorced him. She had the same lawyer that the Lee Marvin palimony case came out of. So she had a better lawyer than him. She won. Then she starts putting out, she wants a certain kind of stand-up, not the old traditional ones, but the new kids.
Right.
And Carson moved to California. Now suddenly Johnny needs 3 comics every month, and there are not many here.
Mm-hmm.
So a train started, both on real trains and in airplanes, of New York acts coming to L.A. to do Johnny Carson. And as Carson grew, so did that whole crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Then they need a place to work out. They start hanging out at the Comedy Store. 5 years into the Comedy Store, I wandered by and got a job my second day in town as a doorman.
Wow.
I came to L.A. to learn how to do stand-up. I was standing, I thought I was a Monty Python sarcastic yeller. That's what I did for my first 50 shows.
And what year was
and
this?
Although I got laughs, it was going nowhere.
Yeah, what year was this?
Here, it was like getting a scholarship to comedy college.
Mm-hmm.
And 7 years later, I'd learned everything I needed to know about how to tell, write, and perform jokes.
And what year was that?
I was there in 76.
76.
Until 85, when I first went on tour.
Wow.
Now, I was a pro the whole time because I'm getting paid to host the room and run the room and fill in for fallouts when comics don't show. But actually, I'm a bar employee.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are bar employees and bar employees. After a while, 10 employees are fired. I'm still here. I'm become the manager of this and that. At one point, I was the manager of the Satellite Club in Westwood, maybe 18 miles from the Sunset Club. And that means counting beer as well as counting comics.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to run the club, but then now every comic that wants to perform there knows me. When David Steinberg walks up and says, Lou, can you put me on? Suddenly I'm hanging around with the funniest people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Woo!
Who are the big names that were there when you first got there?
Letterman, Leno, Gallagher, Elaine Boozler, Paul Mooney. 3-4 years into it, we'll run into Pryor.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was here for the end of Freddie Prinze. I introduced him 2 nights before he shot himself.
Oh, wow.
But what happens is everybody else is competing against the funniest people in the world. I'm a management choice, so I'm thrown in their mix. Now, I hadn't realized at the time, but this is like on top of going to comedy college, I get to get a management degree too. End result, 7 years later, I'm ready to go. I can see I'm better than most of the people at the Comedy Store doing the regular things I do. But now guys are saying, Lou, I got an important show. Would you come host it for me? So the trust I'd gotten by being on display at the Comedy Store got me out of the Comedy Store. And that nobody there seems to realize that now.
Yeah.
A headliner took me out on the road. We did hundreds and hundreds of shows. I got a world's record for performing in 100 cities a year for 9 straight years. I'd have made it 10 years, but I got married to a cop at the end of the 10 years, and I quit going on the road for 2 months. At any rate, I'll be honest with you. I know 1,000 funny people, and the least talented comic you'll ever meet, but I have a skill. It's different. Ben, having been in the moment so many times, they say if you do it 10,000 times, you're a master at it.
Yep.
I've told 100,000 jokes, so what I'm saying is doing it over and over and over from one city to the next, while guys wait in Los Angeles for their 2 spots. The next level of development is doing shows every night and being paid and then making it hard. And then a lot of New Yorkers come tell subway jokes in L.A. that don't play.
Yeah.
We got no subway. We don't get it.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to tailor your jokes. Don't tell the stupid Southern jokes when you're in the South. When you're in the Northwest, talk slower. You have to learn so your act will work in every part of the country at 8 o'clock, at 9 o'clock, at midnight. And you don't get that without hundreds of repeated shows in a short period of time.
Right.
So I got lucky to get a job at the Comedy Store, then I got lucky to get a job opening for a headliner, and that we changed the format after a year. We don't need no stick and open an act. I can host from the middle, and we get to split his pay.
Yeah, I've interviewed, a bunch of funny people that was there that never quite made it, like Jackson Perdue and Lois Bromfield and Sam Quasman and Bob DeSimone,
Yeah, I know every one of them. Let me tell you, yes, they did make it. Yes, they did. They just didn't get what other people got.
Exactly. That's actually what I meant to say. They should have been, just as successful as everyone else that got all that.
Here's an update. Lois Bromfield is living in Germany.
Yes, she is.
Jackson Perdue has recently been able to change his act to work cruise ships, and his income has tripled.
Yeah.
We keep track. And believe it or not, most Comedy Store acts, we all know each other.
Yeah. Did you know Tom Sharp?
Very much so. You want my best Tom Sharp story?
Go ahead.
Okay, Tom Sharp, tall, 35-ish, white guy, bald head, guitar act.
Right.
Guitar acts are doomed, and they don't know it yet. But yet, Tom tried very hard. He's from Detroit area, and doing okay at the Comedy Store. He's a regular. He's on in front of the TV people 2 or 3 times a month, and things are going well. And we had this big comedy strike thing. You ever hear about that?
the Comedy Store strike? Of course, everyone knows about that.
And 9 comics stayed with the Comedy Store. I was 9th. Here's my rundown because I've had to tell the story a lot lately.
Okay.
I was the 159th comic at the Comedy Store.
Uh-huh.
I'm living in the Comedy Store house, maybe 100 yards up the Hollywood Hills from the Comedy Store, with Argus Hamilton, Mike Binder, Yakov Smirnoff, Ollie Joe Prater, and some kid named Andy Silverstein.
Yeah, Andrew Dice Clay.
Okay, don't blow it yet.
Okay.
And I come down the hill, and I'm going to work, and the 150 funniest people in the world are standing in front of the Comedy Store holding picket signs, and they're angry and forming or trying to form a comics union to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I walk across, I know them, they know me. Don't go in there, Lou, you'll never work in show business again. I said, wrong, I'm in show business tonight, and I'm getting $75. How much you guys getting? And they are literally starting a big protest movement now. Several people's careers ended. 2 people died. It's a long story. But during the strike, about 8 days in, I'm suddenly now 9th at the Comedy Store because they're out there.
Mm-hmm.
Mitzi says, you're hosting the main room for 2 hours tonight. You're directing the first improv group called the Potluck Players.
Yeah.
As soon as you finish that, smoke a cigarette, you come hosting the original room for 2 hours, and I'll probably get you to do a set. After that's over, go up to our upstairs room and host the belly room till we close. So I finished my responsibilities in the main room. I have a killer improv group, and I'm funny.
Yeah.
And I walk to the pavement to have a cigarette and watch the parade go by because they're supposedly picketing, but they have to keep moving in a circle. And I'm standing there watching it. You know, some of it's congenial, some of it's very angry towards me and them. And Tom Sharp walks by and he goes, Lou. I say, hi. And he has to keep moving because that's the rule. So as he goes past me and then comes back real quick, he says, I got an idea. And now he has to go all the way down to the other end of the building in the picket line and come all the way back. And he says, take a sympathetic turn in the picket line with us. Come on.
Yeah.
Just go around the circle a couple of times. And I'm going, well, Tom, I would, but I'm on the other side. I don't support the strike. And if Mitzi saw me, he'd kick my ass. So we laugh. He goes away. He says, well, I got another idea. And he comes back. He's saying, how about if I get several other people on your side to do it before you? I says, okay. And the comic standing behind him says, let's chant. So the whole 150 funniest people in the world are chanting, free Lue Deck, free Lue Deck, because Tom Sharp wanted to talk me into it. And when Tom comes back by again, I jump out in the line, I grab his sign, and I'm saying, free Lue Deck, that's me, free Lue. And it's all pretty funny. Now, there's a labor movement going on, but these people are too funny not to join the moment. And we're having a high old time until on my third way around the picket line, I run into my boss, Mitzi Shore, the owner of the Comedy Store, standing in the patio going, Lo, what are you doing? I threw the sign down and ran inside the Comedy Store. But I will remember Tom Sharp for the rest of my life because everybody was so angry on both sides about the strike that nobody was being funny, and for that 1 minute, we were all funny.
Yeah. Did you see Biff Maynard hit Jay Leno with the car?
No, and it wasn't Biff, and it was Ollie Joe.
Oh.
Just to tell you the truth, yeah, I was standing right there. Leno is not taking the strike very seriously. He's totally politically behind it. But
yeah.
He showed up the first night of the strike in a costume,
yeah,
looking like De Niro from The Deer Hunter.
Yeah.
He has camouflage on, a green beret. He had a car. Funny enough, he had a car with cardboard put on it so it looked like a tank.
Yeah.
And he pulls out in front, and he's being funny. Everybody else is going, screw the Comedy Store, fuck Mitzi, pardon my language.
You can say it.
And Leno showed up to be funny. Now, later, as the 9 other comics are showing up, this one act, Ollie Joe Prater, this is the man that hired me at the Comedy Store my second day in town. This is the act that was the headliner that took me on tour for 5 years. Has to pull his own car into the parking lot. Jay stood in front of it and said, I'm not going to let you pull it. And Ollie says, I'll run your ass down. And he says, no, you won't. So Ollie starts edging forward, and almost to where those knees are touching his bumper, and Ollie's just gunning it, going, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. But he just split and slipped. The car moved no more than a foot, and I don't think it actually hit Leno, but Leno had to jump back, and he realized Ollie would run over him, so he jumped off to the side.
Wow.
Another supposed striker says he pulled the same trick, but I'm telling you, I was there. They were screwing with him, and he was screwing him back with him a little harder.
Wow. Didn't Ollie Joe Prater set fire to the Improv?
Okay, let me say this right now. No, not once, not never, not no how, not no ways. In Bud Friedman's book, on, I think I used to have it memorized, page 149, two Comedy Store wannabes set the fire, Biff Maynard and Ollie Joe Prater. Well, first, Biff was at his favorite cocaine dealership about a mile from the Comedy Store, and Ollie was asleep in my room up at the Comedy Store house. No. Plus, both of them intimate friends of mine and mentors. If they had set the fire, they would have bragged about it.
Really?
Yes. Now, where the fire started behind the Improv was a kitchen door where they put all the trash out. For 3 years, there was 45 wires hanging there with metal parts exposed. It was a terrible building, and that's where the fire started. Now, I stood back there many times. On Sunday afternoon, they have a open mic where if you sign up first, you go on first. If you sign up 10th, you go on 10th.
Right.
And I was famous for getting there early for a year and a half and going on first. So as soon as I signed the thing, I walked behind the Improv and I smoked a joint. I've been to that spot 30 times where the fire started. So what I'm going to tell you was a fire hazard to begin with. Second, the Improv didn't burn down, only that particular area and about 12, 14 feet that will end up being behind where that famous red brick wall the Improv has for the stage.
Right.
Red bricks, well, the fire made it to just over there.
Just over there, so...
The Improv didn't burn down.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
For Bud or any striker to say that Biff Maynard or Ollie Joe Prater, I need to go further. In Bud's book, Bud claims that Ollie Joe, on his dying deathbed in Hollywood in 2003, confessed that he set fire to the Improv. Well, Ollie had been dead for 10 years, and he died in Michigan. So what Bud printed could not have happened because the man had been dead for that long. Now, to coincide that he got it wrong, Biff Maynard was in the hospital a year later and died. Now, all the Comedy Store guys, as soon as we heard the Improv was on fire, started cheering. In L.A., you have to make a choice. You're a Comedy Store or you're an Improv. Very, very few acts get to play both, so you're a Yankee or a Dodger. Got it? I've never been a Yankee, although as an open mic and amateur, I played there all the time, maybe 70 shows in the late 70s. But the higher I went up at the Comedy Store, the less likely they would put me on, and the more likely that my owner would be angry. Got it? Yankees and Dodgers. So when the Dodgers see Yankee Stadium goes up on fire, we're laughing. We're cheering. We don't wish anybody poorly, but that's our opposition. That's what happened in the strike To this day, they're claiming 2 dead guys did it. I'm going to say on your show right now, no, it was me. I burned down the Improv. And that I can have 10 other comics call you and say the same thing, because we all were going to say, yeah, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's comedy. Right now, the truth is, I worked for Mitzi Shore for 4 years before that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I live in her house. My money comes from her. My stage time comes from her. If she'd asked me to stick a gun in Bud Friedman's head and shoot him, I would have. But she wasn't a crook either. The Comedy Store doesn't believe in burning down the other place.
Okay.
Comics that are accused of it were huge jokers and talkers and great writers and performers, but they weren't criminals.
Okay.
Insofar that they would set an arson fire.
Okay.
So that's a myth that's grown up since then that's completely untrue. Completely untrue. Yes, the Improv did catch fire. I won't relate to you what is the average thought on that in New York, where the culture is different, but some have blamed Bud himself.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that's true, and I won't lay on him what he laid on Ollie Joe Prater and Biff Maynard. But I'll tell you the truth. I'm a gentleman. I keep my word. I give you my word. Ollie Joe Prater and Biff Maynard did not set the fire together or individually. They wouldn't have done it.
Okay.
I tend to think they were both cowards and wouldn't have stood up. But either one was such a braggart that if they'd done it, they'd have no jokes about it.
Okay, I apologize for bringing that up.
Oh, no, just thanks for giving me the chance to say. The world is full of opinions, that's mine.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to take over, but you hit a button on me.
It's okay, sorry. I've been told that the place got really, really dark when Kinison became huge.
When what became huge?
When Sam Kinison blew up and became huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was a book. A guy named Bill Noble Cedar wrote "I'm Dying Up Here."
Yes.
Actually, he ran across me from something I had written about the strike with my partner at the time, and gee whiz, when the book comes out, he features me. Who was the doorman there that did such and such and that? Pretty much the stories I've already told him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was manager of the evening, and that puts me maybe 4th or 5th down on the list, but it was like a Thursday in the middle of the week. Nobody else was there. The cops walk up to me and say, someone has jumped off the building next to the Comedy Store, famous hotel. We think he's a comic. Would you identify the body? I said, no. He said, why? I said, I don't want that image in my head. As it turns out, they bring me the man's identification with blood on it about 20 minutes later, and yes, I can identify him. He is a comedy, or was a Comedy Store comic. And he is upset with how the strike turned out, so he killed himself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dying up here. At any rate, suddenly, 30 years later, 26 years later, somebody writes a book, puts me in it, and the world explodes. I'm a touring comic. When I come back to LA, I don't want to do a show. I just want to rest and get ready for the tour. They work for, by the way, the result of the strike was a short-lived dental union for people that would pay money they don't have. And cab fare if you do a spot at the Comedy Store.
Mm-hmm.
Does it work the careers that blew up or the people that died? No. In my opinion, the whole strike was about 8 or 10, I call them the fabulous 14 performers that were absolutely ready to be paid, worth being paid, and should be stars that got into a yelling match with the owner of a nightclub, and all of that happened.
Mm-hmm.
The Comedy Store is unique in the fact that we do continuous comedy on any particular night. You're going to see 17, 20 comics Most comedy clubs do 3 max. So we can't pay everybody. We would not make any money. By the way, the rent on Sunset Boulevard is 40 times what the rent is for your local comedy club. We got to make money to stay in business at this location. No, we can't pay 20 acts a night. But we can have the Carson Show, the Tonight Show comic coordinator here. We can have the Saturday Night Live casting agent here. We can, so we're a showcase club. And they wanted it to be a paid comedy club. Now, every one of them deserved to be paid. They should have gone somewhere where they could get paid. But then you've got 150 huge talents arguing about how to run a picket line. They broke the law every time they came out. Because if you're a union, you have to march correctly and not throw things at the club, and you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're like total dorks, and got restrained by not only legally, but the police. After about 3 weeks, they all realized they had careers somewhere else, and it petered out.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't get much done. They did it poorly. I hate to be the one to say it in Hollywood. If they gotten 5 lawyers to have some talent, they could have solved it with the lawyers, not. At any rate, the strike was a real huge thing that happened in stand-up, and that as soon as I got some skills I could market, I got out of L.A.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever hang out at the Crest Hill House?
At the Crest Hill House?
Yeah.
I lived there.
You lived
like
there?
3 years.
Who was there when you were living there?
Yakov Smirnoff, Mike Binder, Ollie Joe Prater, Argus Hamilton, and myself.
Wow.
Oh, and Andy Silverstein, who later become Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah. I heard
that. He was
that.
an impressionist.
Yeah, at that time he was an impressionist.
Full-on costume impressions of Jerry Lewis, Travolta, Elvis, Danny Kaye, And that you come home in the middle of the day or after work or whatever, and he'd be sitting in his underwear in the kitchen because his room was right off the kitchen, full dress into the impression, practicing, rehearsing in a mirror, sitting at the kitchen table.
Mm-hmm.
So you could get up in the middle of the night and go pee and stop by to get a Pepsi and see Elvis. And he was good, but impressionists don't make it. Somewhere along the line, he got the idea with Sam Kinison to do character things, and out came the Beast, Sam Kinison, and the Dice, Andrew Clay.
Yeah, it's a weird, triangle thing there, but I mean they really changed comedy for a while there in the late '80s.
Yeah. Don't kid yourself. I keep track of Andrew. He's nationwide touring every year.
Yeah, I almost saw him.
The Laugh Factory's Tahoe or Reno club within the next week.
I almost saw him in San Francisco in 2016, but then he canceled the show. And it's ironic that he did it because I was very overdrawn on my debit card, and then the ticket money was refunded to me. I was like, yes, because I was really freaking out. Yeah.
My best one on Dice Clay is me and Ollie are playing Huntsville, Alabama, and our room holds about 350 people, and Ollie's a great act and very well publicized. So we're sold out, and then we find out that Andrew is playing on the weekend the Werner von Braun Auditorium, 8,000 seats. And then, so we bump into him at the middle of the week at the radio station. The comics are there advertising their shows like most people do in support of a comedy club, and say hi and stuff. And then on the weekend, we turn on the TV, and Andrew's being ticketed by 2,000 people for Dice.
Yeah.
So the club owner we're working for gets a big pickup truck, puts a bunch of hay in it. Me and Ollie get in the back of the pickup truck with a PA system and go control his crowd for people.
Mm-hmm.
And we all three we used to live together.
Yeah. That's so crazy. Yeah. Did you know Lori Jacobson?
No.
She was a waitress there from 81 to 82. She later became a writer of Hollywood gossip stories, and she's a...
I think I know who you're talking about from the time period.
Yes, she's an agent or a manager now. She manages all former child actors.
Years I was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she...
So I'm thinking in my mind, there were several notable waitresses in that period. Mitzi, okay, here's some Comedy Store stuff. Mitzi used to say the doormen aren't seating the people close enough together to get more people in if the waitresses aren't bitching. Second thing, there's only two reasons for a girl to work as a waitress at the Comedy Store, because it's intense work in cramped spaces. Reason number one, to sleep with comics.
Yeah.
Reason number two, to become comics.
Right.
By sitting there and looking at the acts night after night after night after night, you learn to do more than the average amateur simply by watching the pros.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then there's waitresses that are there for the first reason.
Yeah, Lori, she told me a lot of stuff that she saw there that's just hilarious. She said that Gilbert Gottfried was very pathetic at hitting on waitresses.
Oh, I've seen it all.
Yeah.
My first fixed position at the Comedy Store Sunset was at the very back of the back hall, what is now the back door. And so I put a stool where I can see up the steps straight into the original room and center stage. So half the time I'm sitting there, there's nothing going on. I watch the acts. And Mitzi, the owner, comes by several times. What are you doing? I'm watching the act. She's keeping the eye on the door. Sure. She says, okay, if you watch the acts, watch for the mistakes they make and don't make those mistakes. So I noticed a lot of people blew the moment of coming right on stage and going for a laugh. Mm-hmm. And later we'll adapt it into my show to where I strike meaning go for a laugh, within 10 seconds of the MC saying my name. I'm looking for that valuable first impression, and a lot of acts don't. Mm-hmm. So now I got like 42 lessons from sitting there and watching the best in the world make stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
Rodney Dangerfield told me, he says, never ad-lib your opening line. You spent 20 years coming up with one line that will work as your opening line. Don't waste an ad-lib and blow your line. Come on, do your opening line and then ad-lib.
Yeah.
So imagine the stories and the lessons you can build up by watching continuous comedy for 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever see any ghosts there?
Oh, yes, hundreds. No, you laugh, but I'm saying I cannot explain.
I can imagine, because...
I'll come up with a quick one. As a matter of fact, Tuesday night I'm standing in the main room talking to a doorman
mm-hmm.
who doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
He knows I'm a comic, but he doesn't know that this was my room for 7 years. About the ghosts. Anyhow. But first, you haven't mentioned my book.
Oh, we will. We'll talk about the book.
What's the title of the book?
Stand Up Decoded.
Be as funny as you think you are.
Be as funny as you think you are.
So at this time in my life, I have my stand-up gave me everything I want. I don't want for anything. So at this part of my life, I give back. I'm trying to explain the path I've been down, the decisions I made, the lessons I learned, and help new comics. Mm-hmm. So ghosts, okay. Let's see. Yes, the Comedy Store has quite a bit of space in it, and different ghosts for different areas. Although about half the ghosts go to all the areas, some ghosts only stay in their area. I I can place it in time to where it's the 3rd annual Young Comics special taped at the Comedy Store with Victor Borga as the host.
Yeah.
We have discovered we're set up with new sets. We've added to the stage. They're incredible, long, big wires going the length of the club to the parking lot, and we can't lock the back door. You can close it slightly, but with all these cables, you just can't close the door. So the lighting guy and I stand there for 20 minutes, and we put them all in a row up so I can pull the door closed, put a chain on it, and no human can get through this because it's only 2-3 inches, right?
Mm-hmm.
An hour later, I'm walking around the club to turn everything off and make sure nobody's here and go home, and I hear somebody knocking on the door, and just a hand stepped through the space waving, "Lou, Lou, Lou." So I go and look, it's Chevy Chase. He's going to be on the show also.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to come in and play the piano. He has a broken arm and a big cast on. So I take him around the back. I let him in. He asked me if I got to join. I said, sure. We sit on the piano and sit and talk for 10, 15 minutes. He plays the piano. Says he's done. I walk him all the way outside. I walk him back to the long hallway where I stick my hand out and wave as he leaves, and walk the length of the club back into the main room. And 200 chairs I had taken an hour to set in the correct place are now piled in a triangle to the ceiling.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I've been out of the room less than 2 minutes.
Wow.
I'd have heard them. They're metal chairs. I'd have heard it. And I went, I screamed the MF word, and they all fly back down and go back to exactly where I put them, including one chair that comes right over near me, but I had taken some time.
Mm-hmm.
And it does the same dance when I was doing it, and then seats itself right where I had left it. I ran from the building and slept in my car.
Wow.
And that was my first.
Wow.
I can tell you 20 more Argus claims. Argus Hamilton, one of my mentors at the store also, and a comic emeritus,
Mm-hmm.
on whose show I'm working now. It's called Comedy Store Tonight. It's on YouTube, starring Argus Hamilton. We're on episode 79. It's like the Johnny Carson show.
Yeah, it is.
And I got to tell you, I'm very proud of that. First off, this is the same space that I first started in with video 44 years ago. Maybe 8 feet from where he does his monologue is where my first workbench was. 44 years later, we're doing it again. At any rate, Argus claims that several of our dead alumni make visits to the Comedy Store. I know I've seen Robin Williams.
Yeah.
I've seen Pryor, the aforementioned Ollie Joe Prater, several people you wouldn't know because they didn't get famous enough but have died.
Mm-hmm.
Then I told you about Ciro's The Old Days. The legend is it was one of the big mobsters, Mickey or Joey or Tommy No-Nos or whoever, killed somebody on the premise, and so he's there as a ghost. Now, that's the one I have the most experience with because it's in the main room. And in the old days, before they put up the walls, you could go to the back of the Comedy Store, big dressing room. What then was the Tiny Tim dressing room, because we actually hired Tiny Tim to do shows way back when.
Wow.
And you could look underneath the wall and see the red dirt that the building sits on, and there's a perfectly square 4 foot by 4 foot by 6 foot concrete block.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
As if somebody killed somebody, put them in concrete, and put the block under the building.
Yeah, the first time I went there to the Comedy Store in the OR 4 years ago, I felt the presence of dead comedians there. I didn't see them, but I just felt like that they were there.
It depends on how sensitive you are. I've never believed in ghosts and spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked at the Comedy Store, and now I know there's many things I don't understand. I can't really tell you what I have experienced as ghosts. That's just the biggest label, or the nearest label I can put on it.
Yeah. So
well, I got like 15 stories like that, and now lately I'm hearing some of my friends. I seem to be, every time I'm in the main room, I seem to see something moving at the corner of my eye. Was that Robin? No. But, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's on the edge of my perception, but I feel something. And then I know other guys that have been there a long time can describe the ghost to you, including the 30s Chicago gray double button suit they're wearing.
Yeah.
Everybody has different arrangements. Yeah, it's a spiritual place. I would think, just think angst. We use 20 comics a night in 3 rooms a night. How many comics have been there going through there? If you sweat emotionalism,
Mm-hmm.
the rafters must be full of vibrations, positive and negative.
Yeah. So
I can't say they're ghosts, but there's something.
So when you left,
and here's my thing.
Oh, go ahead.
I've got a truce with them. It's me. You know me. I got to work tonight. Please don't bother me, and you cannot follow me home. Then, hi, Mickey. I say hello to Mickey. He's the one in the main room. And they leave me alone.
Wow. I guess they like you.
Well, a matter of survival. I worked in the building so long. Again, if Mitzi had asked me to do anything, I would have done it. And when she asked me to be in a work situation and put me up against something I couldn't understand, I just absorbed it.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to learn how to understand that, so I would have literally killed for it.
Before Mitzi died, when was the last time you actually talked to her?
About a year before.
Uh-huh.
The book came out, I'm Dying Up Here.
Mm-hmm.
She knew he had featured me in it, and said, did anything happen? And I went, well, yeah, I've got calls from all over the world, as a matter of fact. What else? They made a movie about Kinnison.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see it? I Am Sam Kinnison.
Oh, yeah, the documentary, yeah, I saw it.
So they interview me. I resisted 2 or 3 times because at the end of Sam's life, I was very angry with him and wouldn't speak to him.
Mm-hmm.
But I had met him in Houston 2 years before he came to L.A.
Yeah.
And said, look me up. First night in town, he walks to me in the back of the Comedy Store hall where I'm working and says, well, here I am. And I went, big deal. At the Comedy Store, we see 30 new comics a week. Hi. But he had something. At any rate, as he's making hay, at one night he and I are smoking a joint in the back parking lot of the Comedy Store,
Mm-hmm.
and we hear Mitzi Shore getting beaten up by a comic.
Oh, yeah.
So we rush over and rescue her, and in the Kinnison movie, they made it a cartoon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
I'm well over 60. Somebody made me a cartoon rescuing a damsel in distress. As a Southern gentleman, I could not ask for anything more except the note, in my last movie, I got to play myself. And they made a cartoon of me. So I had some disagreements with the film as a whole, but suddenly, and they thanked me 4 times in the credits because I gave them memorabilia and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Right now, Mike Binder from Ray Donovan and a whole bunch of other stuff, a graduate of the Sunset Comedy Store, is making the history of the Comedy Store for Showtime.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. I can't wait. It's going to be cool.
And they've interviewed me twice, and that there's a very good chance I will be in that, even though I haven't been at the store since 96. So, when the book came out, I'm sorry, I'm sitting on the porch and the plane just flew over. I'm sitting on the porch and I get a call and says, the book's come out, will you come to the book signing event from the author? Well, okay, sure, I'm not big for that, but okay. If you were nice to me, I'll return the favor. And just to be quirky, I called the Comedy Store and said, can you get me 10 minutes tonight? I happen to be in the area at a bookstore doing, we heard about it, all that's Mitzi. And at any rate, it came through very quickly that I could do a set. And that means Mitzi said, Lue's back, sure. And that meant the moon to me.
Wow.
So when the Kinnison movie was ready, the director calls me and says, where do we think you should hold the premiere? I said, well, ask the Comedy Store, buy the main room, hold the premiere at the Comedy Store. And that's what ended up happening. Now, I'm sitting there, they put me not in Mitzi's booth, but in the number one honorary booth. And 56 minutes into the film, I come on, and my head is 30 feet, my head is 20 feet by 30 feet.
Mm-hmm.
It almost made me puke. I ran from the room, and I didn't get to see the rest of the movie. I'm not here to watch me, and my head's big enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to wait a week or so to get the DVD where I can stand to watch it. And then I found out that, what can you say? Do you remember the movie Liberty Valance?
Oh, the man who shot Liberty Valance, yes.
Yeah, in the end, the reporter is questioning Jimmy Stewart, the senator, about what has happened. And he stands up and he says, well, I've been in newspapers for 20 years, and I know when the truth contradicts the legend, print the legend. And not only in the Kinnison movie, but there's something called the True Hollywood Story of the Comedy Store. They printed something that looks like the truth, but it's the legend, and it makes me look better than I was. So, for the last year, I lost my wife.
I'm sorry.
January.
Sorry about that, Lou.
Thank you very much. It's been hard adapting, but what has happened is the comedy phone started ringing. The legend lives on. People want me to do stuff. Believe it, after 45 years, I'm still funny. I think.
Who do you still talk to from the old days?
Well, all I'm saying is that I love the old days. I have 10 miracles in my past that I thank God for, and I feel I've always been able to say I'm at the right place in the right time. It smells like lime juice to me. But it's a sensory perception that it sounds so strange. I'm just going to say you have good timing. I feel like I'm at the right place at the right time again. Something's going to happen. We'll see. At any rate, I'm happy. I've learned how to make people laugh at the drop of a hat. It's all I ever wanted. I refuse to have the old comic disease. I'm important. I'm funny. How come you don't know how important and famous I was? I'm not going to be like that. I'm just going to say I'm Lou. I'm having a good time. Come play with me.
How long did it take for you to write the book?
Actually, I wrote it. I had been working on something like that for about a month and a half, and then my wife was in the hospital for a week, and I wrote it at night when I came home from the hospital for my third visit. And so I was wanting to connect the stories I had published. I'm a columnist for an online magazine. My column's called Searching for Laughs, and the magazine is thecheers.com. No spaces. Pardon me, I got it wrong. thecheers.org. But as it turns out, I probably have 100 articles with them. And about 30 articles in, he said, why don't you write about comedy? So my book is a collection of articles I had already published about stand-up. And after every article, there's a lesson for new comics.
Nice. I was curious.
See where we're times at, so I want to change to one thing and tell you one miracle.
Go ahead.
I'm a stand-up, and I know because God sends me messages. In 1985, I got a request to do a USO tour. You know, Bob Hope entertaining the troops overseas?
Yep.
To backtrack some, my mother's father died in World War II fighting the Japanese somewhere in the Pacific. She never knew what happened because war's hell.
Yep.
So 45 years later, I'm in 5, 6 different countries. We're doing probably 3 weeks of shows in each country, and when we get to the Philippines, we're there for 3 weeks. Our last show will be at the Presidential Palace, Malacanang Palace for Ferdinand Marcos and in Imelda. At any rate, after the show, we're in the diplomatic line. They come by, they say hello. The president says to me, I like your cat jokes. Anything I can do for you? I whipped out a picture of Grandpa. Lieutenant Colonel Dan Houston in the United States Army. Disappeared 1944 in this prison camp at the top of your island. Helped me find out what happened. He gives me to a general, who gives me to a colonel, who gives me to a lieutenant. Me and the lieutenant set out a plan. Within 5 different cemetery visits, I find my grandfather's grave. He was a little bit more of a hero than I was told. I make applications to get information released. Turns out my mom gets a Bronze Star, a Silver Star, a Purple Heart, and $62,000 old insurance money. They never paid out. I got back to the United States in time to show it to his wife, my grandmother, and his daughter, my mother. I fulfilled a family dream because I was telling jokes on the other side of the world. God sent me that message that I had done something right. That's why I'm happy that I've been in comedy. I have 10 of those. But sometimes you get to know you're at the right place in the right time. Tommy, when you called me and we started communicating about this,
right,
I knew it was the right place and right time. I hope I've fulfilled your requirements as a guest.
You sure have, Lou, and you are truly blessed, I have to say. I was curious, real quickly, is Lue Deck your real name?
Yes, sir. Since this is media, I will leave it there, but there's more to the story than just that. But yes, Lue Deck is my real name.
Because I was going to say, it does sound Southern.
Well, no, I wouldn't give you my Social Security number either.
No. I was just going to say, it sounds Southern, but it also sounds like a really cool stage name at the same time.
I was told the value of a 7-letter marquee name my first week in town.
Nice.
Hey, cut me some slack. Tell you a couple of quick jokes I'm working on.
Go right ahead.
I walk into the Comedy Store. I have white hair and red shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy the other night introduced me. The doorman introduced me as Lue Deck OG.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that meant old guy.
That's pretty good.
I'm trying to keep up. I'm even working on my new app. I got a new app. It reminds me what the hell I went in the next room to do. Okay, one more.
Okay.
I have another new app. My other new app is for sex over 55.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good. It'll teach you a lot, and you really enjoy it. The bad part, you have to get your grandson to explain it to you how to use it.
That's a good one. I like that.
Well, thanks very much. I'm trying to throw some shade.
Yeah, throw some shade.
That's it. I got lit, and I decided that from now on, every time I want to be sarcastic, I'm going to use millennial terms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Well, Lou, I thank you.
You.
Lou, I thank you so much for coming on today.
My pleasure. Actually, you started a fire in me, and I'll do more today from having talked to you. Bless you. Post this on my thing for me.
I sure will.
I don't face, plot, or link.
Yeah. I'll send it to you. Okay.
Okay, and let's do it again. We can cover more ground. I'm sorry I talked so much.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. I'll get in touch with you again, and we'll do it again sometime.
Well, you made me laugh. That's what counts.
Thank you. Okay. Bye bye.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Well, there you have it. Lue Deck. Ain't he a cool dude? Comedy history right there. It's pretty damn cool. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.